if your pastor's trying to convince you that Jesus can come back at any time, look, he's lying to you. He doesn't know what honestly, you're following him straight to hell. That's no lie either. Okay? That's the truth. You're following him straight to hell. He's preaching a different gospel. Okay? Revelation chapter 3, verse 3. Yeshua says, if you watch, I will not come on you as a thief, and you shall know the hour I will come upon you. So you're supposed to know the hour. And everybody says, but Tom, what about Matthew 24:36? Matthew 24:36, and parallel verses in Mark. And where Jesus says, no man, Yeshua says, no man knows the day or the hour. And he's come with a trumpet sound. Well, look, that's what we're getting ready to look forward to. Everybody's looking forward to tonight, especially. The first sliver of the new moon on the 7th month is how we kick off what's called the Feast of Trumpets, okay? And that's also when we're supposed to be looking up because our Messiah, our redemption, draws nigh. And look, he already fulfilled the first 4 spring feasts of the Lord. He came as the Passover lamb, dying as the Passover lamb, right? Of the first year, which is very important. His ministry was 70 weeks long. We'll get back to that, but just make a note. And then, which leads to the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which that's when he conquered sin and death and hell and the grave, which leads to the first fruit offering. He was raised 3 days later as the first fruit, raised from all of this to fulfill the law. Okay? And real quickly, I'll interject this in here. So if you read Daniel 9:24-27, look, this is the confirmation of the covenant. It's not a peace treaty. It's the covenant was made in blood. It can only be confirmed with blood. After 62 weeks, the Messiah was cut off, but not for himself. So in the midst of the 63rd week, he was cut off. That means his ministry can't be 3.5 years, folks. It says so right there in Daniel. Also, he must be a lamb of the first year. Well, he's 3.5 years old. He's not. That's the ram in the thicket. Okay, see, that's the ram going back to Abraham now. The ram in the thicket was a full-grown ram, signifying someday a full-grown man is coming. There was not a lamb in the thicket. It was a ram in the thicket. People overlook that. And so, now, go pay attention. This all comes together. So Daniel 9:24-27, when the Messiah is cut off, but not for himself, in the middle of the 63rd week, then he comes back, of course, raised 3 days later from the dead. Then that was leading me to the fourth feast day, which is, we call it the Feast of Shavuot. That's the day that Moses brought down the law from Mount Sinai. You call it Pentecost now. That's the day, same day that the law was written in your heart. See, all these things are on a schedule. So the same day as Moses brought down the law from Mount Sinai is the same day he writes the law in your heart. Everything with him is a schedule. He can't just come at any time. Okay, and here's the thing. We're in year 1997. First thing we have to do is determine the year that Yeshua died. When did he die? He died in the year 28 CE. People will try to tell you 30, 32, 33. No, it's 28. We're going to prove it to you right now. First, you can go to Dr. Michael Heiser's work online, and he will tell you and show you how he works it out. Coming from the other direction, like he uses the Roman census and whatever. You know what I mean? He walks you to it, like from his birth and whatever. You see, from as he grows older. What we're showing you is from the other direction. After he died, other things happened, which marked the time, okay? But nobody ever seems to think about that. And there's another man named Michael Rood, and this is actually his work is much better than Dr. Michael Heiser's work. I mean, this guy's stuff is off the charts. He wrote a book called well, he didn't write it. He did write it, I'm sorry. He compiled it. It's called the Chronological Gospels. It's actually Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, some of Acts and Revelation. But he puts it all in order. Like, if you're reading the New Testament, you come to that part in Matthew where Yeshua meets the fishermen. He wants to make them fishers of men, right? Did you ever read that and wonder, like, what the heck's going on here? It's like, he goes down, talks to him for a second. They walk away. Yes, master, we'll follow you. Like, no, it turns out these people have known each other grew up. A lot of those people grew up with Yeshua. Okay, you don't know that though until you start putting it together in order. Anyway, so Michael Rood, R-O-O-D, called the Chronological Gospels. He will show you exactly how it comes out. He gives you the date, April of 28th, 28 CE. And it is. I've checked it 10 different ways. All right, he's right. But you need to go buy his book. I'm not here to recite his book. Here's how we figured it out, though. And I don't know why anybody's ever thought of this. Look, when was the last high priest? Okay, the last high priest was a man named Ananus ben Ananus, A-N-A-N-U-S, Ben, B-E-N-A-N-A-N-U-S. And you'll learn he died in the year 68, defending the Temple Mount. He was the last Levite high priest. If you don't have a Levite priest, you don't have a temple. Okay? Because, like, look, everybody's under the Levite priest, so the Levitical priesthood. We have a new priesthood, the order of Melchizedek. So that's what happened. Now, here's the thing. Go look at the writing. It's called Yoma 39b. This is part of the Talmud, but here it's their history book. And also, look, they're telling on themselves, but they don't know it, right? So when you go in there and you read it, you figure out, and actually it says it was 40 years, like for the scapegoat, the sash never turned white ever again. They had a red sash on this goat. They'd kill the goat. I'm going to give you the quick version. When the goat dies, the sash turns white, but it never did ever again, okay, for 40 years. Back to the earthquake that ruined their temple. That's another thing. In the King James Bible, the temple, the veil in the temple is rent, and that's about all you know. The veil was rent. You don't get an idea. Turns out the temple was practically destroyed. They didn't use it. Like, they didn't use the offices. It was still there, but they didn't go inside of it because they're afraid it was going to fall on them. And so, I mean, really, so those 4 feast days are all fulfilled. What's getting ready to happen is the Feast of Trumpets, and so that's the next one. He's supposed to be, he's coming on the Feast of Trumpets. Now, which one is it? Everybody thinks it's this one right here. No, it's impossible because it's only been 1,997 years. He can't come until it's 2,000 years, just like it was from Abraham. Also, some other indicators. He spent 2 days with the Samaritan people after he told the woman at the well, the only person he ever told, so I mean, up to that point, that he was the Messiah. Because, you know, of course he says it to Peter and them later. But this woman, he tells, and he spends 2 days with the Samaritan people who are Gentiles, which represents the fullness of the Gentiles coming in. A day is that. Now, Peter says, be not ignorant of this one thing. So out of everything Peter wrote, the only thing he doesn't really care, that he thought was most important, don't be ignorant of, is a day is 1,000 years and 1,000 years is a day. So when he spent 2 days with the Samaritan people, that signifies the 2,000 years, okay? And he's going to come back on the day, because look, all flesh is going to perish from the earth, people. You know why? Because that means all the robots are taking over. Think about it. It says all flesh is going to perish. That means all robots will be standing. You guys better get ready. You don't even understand what's coming. Go back and look on my page. Anyway, I don't have time to get into all that. Because look, here's what's happening. The Feast of Trumpets of 2028. That's when he has to come. He has to come in a Jubilee year, which brings us to this point. That's how we know the Antichrist is coming. If not tomorrow, everybody's looking for the Feast of Trumpets and think it's going to be the Messiah. What happens if it's the Antichrist? Okay? I'm telling you, you guys better watch out. If he doesn't come tomorrow or tonight at sundown or whatever, which is when the Feast of Trumpets begins, then he's coming on Christmas Day. Okay? Because that's the last day of this fake Jubilee year the Pope has set up, which the Pope just declared a Jubilee year in 2015. It's supposed to be 50 years apart. This is 2025, only 10 years later. So you can't trust a damn thing the Pope says. So throw him out. So here, the Bible says every 50 years. Well, the next one is in 2028. If Yeshua doesn't come back then, he can't come back until 2078. So it has to be 2028. All this is coming together right now. You better get ready. That means you're not going to be able to go home when you see the abomination of desolation. You're going to see the Antichrist set himself up as God to be God in the temple of God. He's going to point to the blood of Yeshua on the Ark of the Covenant and say it belongs to himself. Do not believe him. In Yeshua's name, amen.